Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Morna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I think being with people makes anything a party. Thanks for coming to ours. I'm here with my good friend Amy. For years, we've spent the early morning hours running and talking together before diving into our days.
Hey, I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
It's easy to think that one day we'll be at a place where our work is done and we have arrived. But the truth is, we never arrive and we're never done. This might sound discouraging, but in today's episode, we talk about how this can liberate us to accept where we are at each stage while still enjoying the creative work of continued growth. Let's listen in.
I have been doing a lot of introspection lately because I just completed one of my offsite reviews that I like to do where I get to go over goals that I've set, goals I want to set for the next quarter, and I just overall look at my life. And so in doing that, I've been thinking a lot about who I am right now and who you are right now. And of course, we bring to the table all of our past selves, I guess. So we have multiple past lives, but it's just kind of fun to think about where we're sitting right now. And so one of the things that has been on my mind a little bit is the fact that the work is never done. The work that we do and the tools that we're gaining, it's never done. And the reason it's never done is because we're always learning, we're always growing, and we're always becoming. We don't ever just arrive. And if we can be comfortable with the fact that we're not going to arrive, then I think it places us in that growth mindset of just being able to be okay where we are and still have hopes and dreams for the future, but also realize like, yep, this is Amy today. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that as well. I like the concept of becoming because I think about the primary song, I'm a Child of God. And Amy, you actually might have been the one that's mentioned this a few years ago as we've chatted. But the beginning, when the song was written, the chorus was written, teach me all that I must know to live with him someday. So talking about living with Heavenly Father someday. And then there was some review of the song and they said, no, we need to change it to teach me all that I must do to live with him someday. And then even I feel like then that's the next step is who am I becoming? So we have to know the stuff, we have to be doing the stuff. And then there's even more of an internal change that happens as we become who we want to be. And I'm curious to see if they'll change the verse to teach me all that I must become or teach me all that I must be.
Yes. Because it's that real internal change.
Right.
I am not entirely sure that I deserve the credit for that information that you got. Thank you for giving it to me. But there's a mutual friend of ours, so I'm like, I wonder if it was her, just because she was more into like the primary songs and the music and everything. But thank you for thinking that it was me.
You're welcome.
I don't know. It could. One of the things that I was thinking about just today actually was the fact that for this year, I have a gratitude calendar. So I printed off small calendars. I'm old school. I like to write stuff down. But I printed off smallish calendars, but big enough that I can write something every day and I can write down all the good that I see in my spouse. Because one of the things that I'm focusing on is seeing all the good in my spouse and with a focus of reminding him who he is. Because I think that as we can remind each other and ourselves of the best within us, that is inspiring and that is lifting. And it also, I think, turns our hearts towards loving that person that we're seeing the good in and not reminding in a way that it's like, remember how you used to do this? Not like that. It's just like seeing all the good things. So little tiny example that I'm going to write on my calendar today because I haven't yet. Yesterday, Nels walked into the kitchen and I was making dinner and everything was fine. No daily breakdown at dinner or anything. I was just making dinner or whatever. And he's just like, is there anything I can do to help? And so I'm going to write that on my little calendar. He asked if he could help because I think it's so easy to focus on the negative. And so as I was thinking about this, and then as I was looking at some of my past goals, not just from the last quarter, but also from past years, I noticed that I had similar things that I was trying to focus on, like building my relationship with my spouse. And one part of me, like my first thought for whatever reason, when I was looking at those was like, really? It's still on the list? I made some steps here. But then I had this thought. I had the thought that these things that I've articulated over the years of how I want to be seeing my spouse in a positive way, how I want to be acting in positive ways, and all the things, that is actually what love really looks like. Hollywood shows us that love looks in it like a different thing, right? Like just this all excitement and twitterpation all the time. But love actually looks like that choice every day and every year to orient myself towards seeing the good, showing the good, loving the good, all of those things. So just kind of interesting that both of those thoughts came to mind in the same couple of seconds. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's the progress? And wait a minute, this work is actually what love looks like.
And it's worth it. Like
Yeah.
he means enough to you that it is on your list of things to do for a few years. Right? Actually, it's a good thing that you're mindful of him and wanting to improve that. And I love that you're writing it out. I think sometimes we will kind of notice maybe once in a while, but then to actually have a collection could be so helpful to go back and look. Oh yeah, he did that day. Oh, and he did this. And oh, I forgot he did that. That keeping a record, I think, can be so helpful in helping our brain reaffirm that he is doing good things. Like help our brain look for it and then show evidence. Yep, he did. Look what he's done.
And it's interesting the things that come up because sometimes like there was one day when I was first starting, I was like, well, I want to start at the beginning of the month, but I didn't have all my stuff together, right? So then I went back and filled in the things I could remember. And so one of the days I could remember he went to work. I'm like, okay, I'm writing that. He went to work, right? And then I thought every day he goes to work, I can write that down. And do I need to fall over myself every single time he goes to work? No. Does he need to fall over himself with joy every time I don't know, do whatever I do? No. But it is worth noting, right? Those everyday regular things that become invisible over time are worth bringing to the surface again and reminding us that this too is an act of love. This too is an act of devotion. This too is an act of sacrifice and all those things. So anyway, that was
so good.
That was so kind of fun. Some of this made me think of a time when you had been on vacation with your family, and afterwards I had asked you, how was it? And you're like, well, Amy, we are still ourselves. Do you remember this conversation?
Not yet. Keep going. Maybe I'll remember.
You were saying like it was a good vacation, but you're also like, we were still just us. This person in the family pretty much just wanted to do the thing they always want to do, which is whatever it was. I don't know. Maybe it was like sit by the pool and read a book. I think someone in your family likes that. And that's just me making it up now because I don't remember specifics. And someone else was kind of like, I don't want to do what everyone else wants to do today. But I remember you also saying, yes, we were still ourselves, but like it's okay that we are who we are and that we haven't had this like life-changing metamorphosis that changed the whole vacation.
Yeah. Just because we were on vacation, things did not shift completely.
Right.
We were not new people at a new place.
Or because you've been doing work on things. Like I think you'd been kind of working on seeing things differently and everything else. And so you've been doing your own personal work, but you were still just like, well, we're still us.
I do remember that now. Yes, I think that was a very good point. And I think a lot of times we think that a circumstance will change how we feel. Going on a vacation, we are going to all be different maybe. And really, that isn't the case. I even remember an example for me, another one, I guess, because you shared one already for me, but about moving houses. I remember being in one house and thinking, oh, it's so small. I just can't wait till we have space. I'll feel more comfortable entertaining. It'll be easier to keep the house clean. And then we moved and we had more space, but I was still stressed about entertaining. Now our house has to be clean and there's more things to clean for people to come over. Like I was still the same person in a different house. And I feel like it's been interesting to notice when it's up to us we can change our thoughts about the same circumstance. And we think a lot of the time the circumstance will change our thoughts, but most of the time it doesn't. And so as I've been in this current house that we've been in for quite a few years now, I have watched myself adjust to, I can host and my house doesn't have to look perfect. And I can be fine with the unclean bathroom or the stuff on the couch when people pop in. But that I'm actually just grateful people want to come over and we want to host. So we're just going to do it and I'm not going to let it stress me out anymore. And that feels so much better.
I think it's kind of cool. One of my favorite podcasters is Gretchen Rubin, and she does the Happier podcast. But two of the things that she often says come to mind. One is to know yourself, and that really helps because once you know yourself, you're like, oh, no, I'm just stressed about this and I am going to choose not to be. But then another thing she says about changing habits is that sometimes when we want to change our habits or change how we're doing something, having a clean slate really helps. So, for example, moving. But what is crazy is that the clean slate itself doesn't make the changes. Instead, it's an opportunity to harness it, to be like, oh, I'm moving. So, therefore, I actually want to put these things into place because I know that because I'm already in change, sometimes it's easier to change.
Yes,
It doesn't,
definitely.
the circumstances themselves aren't the things that make us change. It's us choosing to be mindful and harness the clean slate.
I love that. And I think it's true because that can be a trigger on how you're going to make some adjustments.
Right, exactly.
And I remember that when we moved in here, I had ideas for how we were going to do chores. And I started to assign my kids to do their own laundry. And Saturday was a cleaning day for us. So bathrooms were going to get cleaned and bedrooms were going to get cleaned on Saturdays. So I agree with that. I was looking at a clean slate and trying to implement things. But I'm still the same person. I'm
Right.
still stressed as we're trying to clean. I'm
Yep.
still stressed as people are going to come over, right? And then choosing to make it a different experience.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that we can be mindful of not just the things, like you're mindful of here's how we're going to clean and how we're going to do the things, but I mean, knowing this and having this conversation, we could also think about how am I going to be mindful of how I'm choosing to feel in these situations. So it's just one more step, one more level of like, oh, I can use the clean slate for that too. I'm going to picture myself walking into that Saturday morning of cleaning and I'm going to have a smile and right. Like we can also use that to harness some change within us.
Yeah, totally.
It's just a tool.
Yeah, definitely. I think decide with intentionality. Okay, this is a new day. How am I going to approach this experience, this cleaning thing, whatever it may be. Yeah, very good. Love it.
What I love is that we can actually use that any day. We can use it any day. We can be like, today's a new day. Okay, how am I going to do it today? What am I going to try? What am I going to play with? And I think that's really cool. Something else that came to mind, and this actually goes back to that calendar that I'm doing for my gratitude for Nels, is President Hinckley once said that to be happy in marriage, it'll be a lot better if you just work on getting used to each other rather than trying to change each other. Because a lot of the stuff of life is just getting used to how somebody else is, somebody else's way of being. And it doesn't mean that we don't have rough spots. Sometimes it can make our life easier if someone else is different. But the bottom line is we can't change them anyway. So if we can get used to that being their rhythm and that's how they roll and we can be oriented towards that love for them as they are, then it's just a better place to be so that if there are things inside themselves that they want to change, that we can be an inspiring influence for good.
I love it. And a phrase that comes to my mind is if it's specific to whoever, like specifically to my husband, he is exactly who he is supposed to be. And then that takes away the pressure of me wishing he were different or he should do this or he should say this. I just love how for me that relieves that pressure. And then I get to be empowered on how I want to handle it. Yeah, that is him. And now what? What am I going to choose to do about whatever he's doing?
Right.
It just feels so much better to me to handle it that way.
And it just puts the ball in your court. What am I in charge of? What am I not?
Yes. Yeah.
I've also been thinking about just the fact that different attributes of ourselves can actually show up in helpful ways in our lives or in unhelpful ways. And it's the same attribute. So someone who has like a really great attention to detail, sometimes that is awesome. And you end up with like the fantastic party with all of the ducks in a row and all the little things. Or you end up with a house that is built extremely well or whatever, right? That attention to detail is really great and helpful. Other times, attention to detail can show up in like all you can see is all those details that are unfinished or aren't great. And so for me, one thing I've thought about is just figuring out how to know myself, get to know myself, figure out what attributes do I have, and then just learn about how they show up in helpful ways and how they show up in unhelpful ways. And then I would like to harness the helpful. That's what I'd like to harness. And so that's how I can take, I don't know, my ability to teach. I am someone who just always is like, oh, how could I teach that? Oh, how could I teach that? Just because it's fun. Well, that can also be really annoying because, Lorna, you don't always need me telling you how I think you should live life.
Right.
But that's how our friendship goes.
No, right, for sure.
But I can look at how it shows up, like with my kids, where I do have a responsibility to teach. When is it showing up in a helpful way? And when is it showing up in a lecturing way, which I have found is not helpful? And then try and harness those helpful.
So good. I think that's so good. I agree with you. I don't think I have any other thoughts about that, but I think it is interesting as we do continue to get to know ourselves well, we can see how, yeah, that is a strength. I feel like one of mine is I'm a good listener, but sometimes I like that whoever can just go on and on and on and on and on. And so then it's also I am a good listener, but then I'm also not putting up boundaries for the amount of time that I can offer to her, right?
Right.
So just being mindful, yeah, just being mindful of what you can offer. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect listener, but that I do have a tendency of liking to listen and to want to encourage and support. And so then sometimes it can also be a default or a detriment, because then even too, she's relying on me. Maybe she needs to figure out some of these other experiences on her own or with other people, right? Just noticing. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. Maybe I am the one that needs to listen to her at this point in life.
But just being aware of it, right? And just recognizing that it's how it is. I know I've had people say to me before, oh, why do I always do this? I feel that way sometimes. Like, really, why am I here again? But as I can just remember, well, it's an attribute of myself, and here's how it's helpful and here's how it's not. And right now it's showing up in a way that's not super helpful to me. And so what am I going to do about it? It doesn't mean that the attribute itself is flawed.
Right.
It's just not showing up in a way that's super helpful for how I want to be.
Totally. And even as you're saying that, I think it's so good to notice without beating ourselves up. Right. Like it's okay to notice, like, yeah, sometimes I am not good at governing my time. Or, well, and that's even another, this would be a strength and a weakness. I can be present for whoever I'm with. But then as a default, or as, you know, as the consequence of that, then sometimes I do run late, or I'm not where I said I would be when I said I would be there, because I'm focusing on what's going on now. Right. And so I think that the idea of noticing and letting it be a strength and not beating myself up when I do run late, but maybe I want to adjust a couple things. Maybe I want to set an alarm on my watch or on my phone, or have somebody call me at a certain time to help me register what time it is. Right.
Yep. And just, I think it helps one to be aware of, like, okay, I want to be present. I feel like that is actually really great, because other people who are super fantastic with the clock really struggle to be present. And not that one's better and one's worse.
Correct.
Like, great things about both, but then just figuring out, like, okay, I also want to learn, maybe, because I have the same thing. I think I can be really present with people, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what time is it?
Right.
All the things and whatever. But to also think, if being present with this person is important right now, I can also choose to send a text to someone, or say, excuse me for a minute, or, you know what, I really want to continue this conversation when I can be fully present, or whatever, right? And just, if we're curious about it and we notice it, then we can do things to be more intentional, just to make it how we want to show up, as opposed to always feeling like, oh, that's not how I wanted to do that, and yet here I am again. I'm glad I was there and present. I'm not so glad I was late for this other thing was. And I think sometimes, at least for me, with some of these things, sometimes I want to make a change, and other times I want to make a change. And those are two different states. And sometimes I don't want to make a change. Right. I don't want to. And there's the want to, but I think sometimes we also have an I want to. And it's an okay place to be too.
Yeah.
And it helps me to just recognize it. Like, this is the state I'm in. It's not that I don't want to, and I know I am not wanting to. I'm in this other zone.
I do think it is so helpful to notice that. And it doesn't have to be a problem. Okay, this is good. This is where I am right now, and it's okay. And I hope to be able to be at a point where I want to at some point, but I'm not right now.
And sometimes it's like, I don't really ever have a desire to be there. Okay. But just to know there's those different stages, and that I don't want to and I want to are actually different. They're different things, because in both places you're not there yet, and you're not to the I want to yet. And maybe you'll never be there for some things, but maybe other things you will be. So
good.
I just have to remember, like, when things come up, that, like you said about that vacation, hi, Amy, you're still yourself. I'm just still myself. And with all the good that means, and all the growing that I still want to do, it's still me. And to be able to take myself along and name myself as my own best friend, and to be okay with the fact that I am where I am, and to realize, like, this partner of my life, who will always be with me and will never go away because it is myself, can actually be my best friend if I can just realize, here I am.
Still me.
Even that phrase about our husbands or whoever, they're exactly who they're supposed to be. What about I am exactly who I'm supposed to be right now? And I can want to change, or I can want to change, but I'm okay right now too, exactly where I am with what I'm doing.
Yep.
I think that's also super powerful.
I've heard it said that if you want to do something, then that really means you don't want to do it. But I have found that wanting to do something is a very important stage in my personal growth. Wanting to lets me know that I'm noticing something in my world that could use some adjustment. Little by little, I become aware of what is at the root of my wanting to want. And one day, wanting to do the thing emerges, or the whole thing drops out of my life. I think it's kind of amazing, but it only works if I'm willing to let wanting to want be a safe place to be. I hope you'll discover the power of that space.
Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Amy Rasmussen.
And I'm Lorna Adams. See you next week at Moms.